All right, so we've all played around with chatbots, right? They're cool. But the real game changer, the next big thing, is AI agents. We're talking about systems that don't just chat, but can actually think, plan, and get things done. So today, we're going to roll up our sleeves and dive deep into what it actually takes to build one of these things from scratch. So what does it really take to build a smart AI agent? We have this vision of these super smart autonomous assistants doing our bidding. But what's actually hiding under the hood? What's the leap from just a cool idea to a genuinely working, intelligent agent? Well, it turns out it's a lot more involved than you'd probably guess. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. Okay, first things first, let's get on the same page. What is an AI agent? Well, it's definitely not just a chatbot that sits there waiting for you to ask a question. Think of it like this. An agent uses a large language model, an LLM, as its brain. It can look at a problem, reason through it, and then, and this is the key part, it can decide on a series of actions and actually do them. It can use tools like searching the web or running a piece of code, all to achieve a specific goal. So yeah, it's all about action, not just conversation. All right, section 1, building from scratch, or as I like to call it, the hard way, building without a framework. To really appreciate just how powerful this smart way of building is, I think we first have to walk the difficult path together. So let's do it. We're going to try to build an agent from the ground up with nothing but our wits and some standard Python libraries. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so you look at this code, a simple API call in Python, and you might think, hey, that looks pretty easy, right? You just package up a prompt, send it off to an AI model's API, and bam, you get a response back. But trust me, this single, clean-looking function is, well, it's incredibly deceptive. It's really just the tiny little tip of a very, very big and messy iceberg. So what is that hidden work? Well, this is where the manual labor comes in. For every single interaction your agent has, you, the developer, have to do all of this. First, you've got to manually format the prompt. Then you make the API call. Then you get back this blob of text, and you have to somehow parse it. After that, your code has to figure out, okay, what do I do next? And on top of all that, you have to manage the entire conversation history by yourself. It's just this constant, tedious cycle of manual work. It gets old fast. And this right here, this is a perfect example of the pain. Prompting the hard way. When you try to manually stitch everything together, I'm talking system instructions, the chat history, the user's latest message, your code just turns into this tangled nightmare. Look at that Python F string. It's brittle, it's a headache to read, and it is just begging for you to make a mistake. One misplaced comma or quote, and the whole thing just shatters. This is absolutely not a scalable way to build anything serious. Okay, so we've seen the painful way, we've felt the burn, but thankfully, there is a much, much better way to do this. So now, let's talk about the smarter way to build. Enter LangChain. Honestly, the best way to get your head around LangChain is to think of it like Lego blocks for building AI apps. Seriously. Instead of having to create every single tiny piece from scratch, LangChain gives you this amazing set of standardized, pre-built, reusable components. You just find the pieces you need and snap them together. It makes building really sophisticated AI agents so much more intuitive. So to really get it, you just need to understand these 3 core concepts: chains, agents, and tools. And the smart assistant analogy works perfectly here. Think of tools as the apps on your phone, a calculator, a web search, whatever. Chains are like simple pre-programmed routines like, hey, look up the weather, then text it to me. But the agent is the brain. It's the part that actually decides which tool to use and when to solve your more complex problem. And now for the main event. We're going to rebuild our agent with LangChain. This is the side-by-side reveal. We're going to take that same exact task that was such a pain before and do it the LangChain way. Get ready for a real aha moment, because the difference is, well, you'll see. It's dramatic. Okay, so remember that horrible, tangled mess of a prompt we looked at earlier? Well, this is how you do it with LangChain. It's called a prompt template. Instead of just smashing strings together and hoping for the best, you use this clean object. It's readable. It neatly separates your instructions from your variables. You're building a structured, reusable template that's so much harder to mess up. It's just a fundamentally smarter way to work. And here it is, the big reveal, the code difference. Without LangChain, 55 lines of brittle, hard-to-read code. With LangChain, 12. Just 12 lines. I mean, that is a massive reduction. The numbers really do speak for themselves here. And this isn't just about typing less. It's about your code being clearer, easier to maintain, and getting your project done way, way faster. All right, next section, the orchestration advantage. And this is about why this all matters. Because look, writing less code is obviously great, but there is a much bigger idea at play here. This is about a fundamental shift in how we should be thinking about building with AI. This right here is the key concept. It's not just about interacting with AI, it's about orchestrating it. Using a framework like LangChain moves you from being just a person who calls an AI model to being an orchestrator of a whole system. You're not just playing one instrument, you're conducting a whole symphony. You're taking all these different pieces, the models, the tools, your data, and weaving them together into a powerful workflow that can solve really complex problems. So let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. What do you get with LangChain? First, you get modularity. You're building with those Lego blocks. Second, speed. You can go from an idea to a working prototype so much faster. Third, abstraction. This is huge. It means you get to focus on the logic of what you're building, not the tedious boilerplate code. You can swap out the entire LLM you're using with just one line of code. And finally, you get access to a whole community of developers building and sharing tools that you can just plug and play. It's a massive advantage. And that kind of leaves us with a big question to think about, doesn't it? As these huge, powerful AI models become more and more like a utility, something you just plug into, is the future less about building the models themselves and more about becoming an architect? Is the most valuable skill going to be the art of orchestrating all these incredible pieces into smart agents that actually go out and solve real problems in the world? Something to think about.